Good morning and welcome to the Power Breakfast Show. This is the News Review segment, and this morning I am grateful to have in my panel Mheshimiwa Njogu Barua. As always, a pleasure having Mheshimiwa Member of Parliament for Gishugu, Mheshimiwa Milly Mabona, Member of Parliament for Suba South.
No, Suba North or Mbita.
Or Mbita.
Yes.
What is this confusion about? Is it Mbita or Suba?
The High Court, or rather the Court of Appeal, made a decision last time, and based on a petition by some members of the Suba community, and changed the name to Suba North. I don't know whether IBC has yet affected, because they keep referring to it both as Mbita and Suba North. So it is both Mbita and Suba North.
Somebody would ask what's in a name. The same question I would ask Penina Gathoni Mushomba. Now officially changed to Gathoni wa Mushomba.
Sure.
You get jittery. What's in a name?
Because people don't really, identify me with Penina. In fact, when we were having our party primaries, majority of my supporters were asking, who is this Penina? If we did the ballot.
So are you saying you lost some votes?
Of course, a lot.
Come on.
Yes.
You had 387,000.
No, I had 400,000. 404,000. Yes, I wanted 600,000 for party primaries. Ambition.
Gathoni wa Mushomba is the Jubilee nominee for the position of Kiambu woman representative in the National Assembly. You're welcome. And of course, as always, Mheshimiwa Jonathan Mweke, Deputy Governor, Nairobi.
Good morning.
We start with a look at what's in the papers this morning. The Daily Nation, flights with Raila cleared for bid against Uhuru, and he's likening his campaign to a tsunami and promising unwavering opposition unity. An ebullient NASA flag bearer declares bruising battle with the incumbent Kenyatta, who is expected to present his papers to the IBC today. Also cleared yesterday, Ekuru Aukot of the Third Way Alliance Kenya and Duba Dida of the Alliance for Real Change Kenya. Mheshimiwa Joseph Nyaga was, however, requested to clear some of his papers. Apparently he had presented more money than was expected in a check to the IEBC. A story of interest, and which we'll be looking at in details, is on page 2. 1 million shillings fine for disobeying the 90 shilling unga price rule. On page 3, Ruto will be the death of Jubilee. This is a warning by Kalonzo as Raila gets IEBC a nod. Of course, Uhuru heads to the City Hall via Islands. He'll be having stopovers from Pipeline Estate in Embakasi, Jogo Outer Ring Road roundabouts to Madaraka, City Stadium, Mudhurwa, Wakulima, Railways roundabout, and finally Kencom before he arrives at the KICC to present his papers, and thereafter address his supporters at the Comesa grounds. Now, page 4, it's becoming an animal race. First we had the 2 horses, then came in the ostrich, Joe Nyaga, and now there's a camel in Ekuru Aukot. It's incidentally turning out to be an animal race. Page 6 of the Daily Nation, presidential aspirant held after a suicide bid. But of interest this morning, and something that we'll be looking at in details with my panelists here, is the editorial on page 14 of the Daily Nation. Discord at IEBC bad for the coming poll. The Standard flights with a massive turnout at the Jacaranda grounds yesterday during the rally by NASA after Raila Odinga presented his papers, and he says, this is the time, Raila's wave of optimism. I believe I'm more confident now than ever before. We as NASA family have prepared for this contest, and we're going for victory on August 8th. This is our time. Also on the Standard, big page 7, big day for Uhuru Kenyatta as he turns out at KICC to present his papers. A story of interest is on page 12 and 13 of the Standard. Boarding schools to be audited and why many may be closed to pave way for day schools. This is in reference to a report that was released after investigations were carried out in regard to school fires, where almost half of the 8,592 secondary schools in the country that are boarding experienced fire incidences across the country in the last few years. Also in the papers, IEBC clears candidates for various positions. Na katika gazeti la Taifa Leo, masuala yaliyopewa kipaumbele ni kwamba kimbunga chaja, asema Raila. Kinara wa NASA Raila Odinga asema kwamba wimbi la sasa la muungano huo ni dhoruba kali hata kuliko tsunami ya muungano wa NARC mwaka 2002. Bwana Odinga alisema kuwa kinyume na awali wamejitayarisha vilivyo kutoa ushindi, na kwamba ni dhahiri kwamba asilimia kubwa wa Kenya inawaunga mkono katika azma yao. Gentlemen and ladies, story on page 2 of the Daily Nation. 1 million shillings for disobeying the 90 shilling per 2 kilogram price for unga. Mheshimiwa Barua, I start with you. Is this punitive?
What I have not...
Oh, you've not had a chance?
Yeah.
The retailer selling the 2 kilogram packet of subsidized maize flour above the recommended 90 shillings price risk a fine of 1 million shillings. This follows the publication of a Gazette notice giving legal backing for state control of sifted maize flour prices. Is this infringing on the liberalized market kind of thing?
That's a tough one. Finding a fine of 1 million shillings for selling two packets instead of one?
No, for selling
about 90.
One pack at about more than 90 shillings.
Oh, well, I think it's not so punitive because the recommended price is 90 shillings. So I don't see why anybody should sell over and above 90 shillings. Because I'm sure for them to get the unga at the retail price of 90 shillings, they must have had their discount, and that discount is their margin. So in my own opinion, this is no more business ethics, and it's also about integrity, because we talk about integrity of among about honest readers. So even the business community should have integrity. Let's stop the politics of 90 shillings. Let's look at it as a business issue. If the retail recommended price of something is 90 shillings, please sell it at 90 shillings. Whether the 1 million shillings is so punitive or not, that's not the issue, but I think it's not ethical for somebody to exploit the poor by selling unga at the price they are not recommended.
Mheshimiwa Milly Mabona, where does this lie, considering the call that everybody has been saying Kenya is a liberalized market? Willing buyer, willing seller.
Well, I know Kenya has the concept of a willing buyer, willing seller. My challenge would be the proper legal anchorage. I'm not really too sure whether that has proper legal anchorage, that you would actually make such drastic actions through a Gazette notice. And even a Gazette notice, we know that subsidiary legislation now must be passed through Parliament. I know I was in Pan-African Parliament the other week, so I don't know whether that really did come to Parliament. So really, I think the traders will first of all be challenging the legality thereof. And if you ask me, I think for me this is really just an attempt by the government to cover up a really bad situation.
Apparently it did come through Parliament in September 2011, where President Mwai Kibaki signed into law a bill that allowed Kenya to return to price control of essential commodities. The practice had been abandoned in the 90s, and now the Minister for Finance of the CS Finance is using that to set maximum prices of gazetted commodities.
Well, if it is that what I'm telling you, I'm not too sure. So if it is actually, because I haven't read that, if it is actually anchored in law, then there is no problem, because the law must be followed. But on that note, what I would actually want to say, for my really for me the issue is not even just about the 90 shillings, but if you actually look at what has been trending on the social media, it's not that people are selling at 90, it's that there is no unga. I saw somebody even wrote, please just bring back the 151 or 201, what we need is unga. They are not there. But of course, if somebody is selling unga at above 90 shillings, because this is subsidized unga, it should actually, if you ask me, it should even not be subsidized. When you have in a crisis like this, it should be free. It should be free, especially if you have the brand of the government of Kenya. It means it is essentially it should be free.
I think I would like to say that the issue of free, the complaint from Kenyans was the unga was too expensive. So putting it from 140 to 90 shillings
is as good as free.
I think it's not as good as free, but it's something which Kenyans can afford, and that's where we are.
Okay.
First of all, the price, the 90 shillings per packet, I will support my brother. it was the right step in the right direction to take care of Kenyans and most of all the consumer. However, the issue of the 1 million fine if you are not able to abide to 90 shillings per bag, I would want probably maybe to recommend that we look at the structures of power of supply and demand. When the demand is too high, it is completely impossible for you to tame, you know, the price, because it's a willing buyer, willing seller. And we also should have done some audit to check who had the old stock of maize before we brought in the subsidized lot, because most business people are arguing I had quite a lot of this stock and I cannot afford to sell at 90, yet there was no audit done so that we can be able to take care of the difference between the old price and the new price. So some audit should have been done and some structural arrangements should have been done. However, we really appreciate the milestone towards the 90.
Jonathan, are we looking at a situation where if you have branded maize flour, the one that has the recommended retail price with GOK logo on it, you should sell it at 90, but if you have the plain one, you can sell it at whatever price you want, depending on how you got it?
Yeah, that's the way really it should be. And that's why I guess they branded it GOK, so that you can differentiate from the subsidized one and from the stock that was there before. And the fine is in order really, because you know the one that is branded GOK has been subsidized, and what a subsidy means is that the government has already paid for you the difference. Yeah, the millers are not going at a loss. That's why the government fished out 6 billion shillings to reduce the price of unga. So the government has already paid. If a business person or a retailer is selling above that price for the GOK maize, then they're punishing the consumer twice. You know, this thing is not free and it's not cheap. It's been paid by the taxes of the same Mwananchi who's buying it at 90 shillings.
Through the taxes. Through the taxes.
But you know, what Mheshimiwa Mili has said, last week I was in Kiminini, I was in Kitale, I was in Kapenguria in West Pokot, and we asked the people there, there's no maize. There's no unga in the shops. In fact, some of those people were saying they only see the unga in the TV. And they were asking, kwani unga iko wapi? Is it in State House? Is it at the DP's place? Where is it? Because it's not there. So the price now is neither here nor there. What people
the availability is the issue.
Is unga. Yeah.
But I think
is there unga in Kiambu?
Yes.
The 90 shilling.
Quite much. Quite much. I think it's issues of.
Are there restrictions on how many packets one can buy?
No. But I think what we need to look at is a chain of distribution. What are the handles in the process of distribution? The farther you are from the millers, the worse it becomes, because of course they're looking at the cost of transportation versus the efficiency of letting go the stock. So I think for me, in areas of central, maize is available, unga is available because of the proximity to the source.
Oh, so people are now getting punished inadvertently for being far away from millers.
Not really punished, but it's the powers, it's the structures of supply and demand.
Okay.
Well, I think for me that is actually wrong. Because if the government knows that we are facing a food crisis, coming in here to subsidize means the government is trying to reach the very hungry, and it is the responsibility of the government to reach everybody everywhere. Just I think 2 days ago I saw in the papers a lot of places in this country the shelves are empty. I think even here in Nairobi the shelves are empty. Even the other day I had many visitors. Myself, I wanted to go and buy unga, and the person I sent told me I can only afford 2. Really? Surely I think even if I can't get access to unga, how do you expect other Kenyans? But I think there's another more serious issue for me, is that there are areas where even that unga does not reach at all, and they rely on the local maize.
Yeah. The
unsifted maize. That is not subsidized. So the situation in the rural areas is still really dire. Would
you have recommended a different approach to this?
Yes, I think so.
And which is?
I think for me actually what the government should have done is really because we know the crisis. I sit in the Committee of Agriculture, and I am glad the PS finally acknowledged that the government did not take appropriate action at the right time. We gave this warning as the Agriculture Committee more than a year ago that there is a looming crisis of hunger, and because a lot of places, especially our food baskets, had failed crops, and the farmers tell you, even my own area, which is not maize rich, had indicated to me, these people tell us that's why we are representatives, and they told us, Mheshimiwa, go and tell Parliament that we are going to face a food crisis. And if you ask my committee, I also told the CS for Agriculture more than a year ago. So if it is a failure on the part of the government, what they should do is not even subsidize, is to provide that food absolutely free because of their own failure.
Here is a situation. We have a subsidized unga retailing at 90 shillings. It's abundant in some areas. Some people only see it or hear about it on radio. Is there something the government would have done beyond just setting the price to make sure that all Kenyans access this commodity?
I think, to me, this maize should be available to each and every Kenyan. And the fact that we have a devolved system of government, we have got 47 counties. I think we can use that as a basis of distribution. I'm not sure that there's so much unga in Kiambu, as my sister is saying, because I live in Kiambu myself. You do? Yeah, I do live in Kiambu. I come from Kiambu this morning. But the point here is, this maize should be available in Kapenguria, should be available in Marsabit and Kirinyaga and Kiambu at the same level. Because hunger is affecting everybody, regardless of the political affiliation, whatever it is. Because the reasons behind this hunger are almost uniform. So I support merely that this unga should be available to each and every Kenyan. Actually, it should be accessible. But the issue of giving free, there I differ, because the maize came at a cost. But what I say is that this unga should come at an affordable price, which Kenyans can afford to.
And can reach everybody. Can reach everybody.
The issue here is access.
Charles, interesting as you give your perspective on this. On page 2 of the Daily Nation, governors have now challenged the government to explain why it has taken too long to stabilize food prices. Council of Governors Chair Josephat Nanok has asked the Jubilee administration not to play politics with the life of Kenyans. He says although this is a campaign season, the government should own up and not shift to blame to county government. We are not to blame.
Yes.
I'm raising that because he just mentioned the issue of we have a devolved system government.
Correct. And that's what I was going to contribute. What should the government have done? Yeah. Number one, they're subsidizing the wrong people. They're subsidizing the millers. You should have subsidized the farmers. This whole thing should have really started with the farmers. You give them affordable fertilizer. You make sure they have implements. Charles, the average age of our farmer now is 62 years old. So the young people are not farming. During the coalition government with Kalonzo, Raila and Kibaki, 90 kg maize used to retail at 3,300. The Jubilee government came in, it came down to 2,300. That's 1,000 shillings less. So the farmers are now less incentivized to plant maize. That's why you're having this crisis now. Problem started there. Then number two, the Jubilee government refused to devolve agriculture fully. So the fertilizer still remains at the national level. It should have been devolved to the counties. The dams that are being built, water and irrigation under Schedule 4 is a devolved function. We kept the money up there. Yeah, that's why the counties and the governors are saying you can't blame us. But since agriculture is devolved, if that was devolved fully and the resources followed, then the governors at the local government level understand their counties much better than the national government does, and they'd have been able to support their farmers well enough so that we can produce food for this country.
Even with the devolved functions, we still see cases of lamentations here and there about service delivery. Do you think county governments would have been able to deliver this precious commodity to everybody?
Yes, I believe the governors should have been, or the county government should have been able to deliver the demanded agricultural inputs effectively and efficiently, so that they can be able to take care of the gap that is existing. I want to remind them that the national government, through the body that does agricultural research, about 4 or 5 years ago, did a report that was out to everybody concerning the MNLD, the maize lethal necrosis disease, if you do remember, which really affected the production output in the food basket of Kenya. And this report was consumed by every governor. I mean, everybody knew that there was a problem with a certain maize disease, that every county government needed to know what to do so that they can be able to avert the situation. But they did not do anything. Let them tell us, what did the governors do in their own county government to avert the situation then, so that this whole pattern of shortage, because this has not been just a one season shortage. The maize shortage in Kenya has had a history from about 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016. And farmers can attest to that they have not had a good harvest because of maize lethal necrosis disease. And we still, even now, don't have a solution.
But apparently, from Jonathan's argument, the issue is the finances. You give us the responsibility, yes, you devolve the function, yes, but it doesn't come with money.
No. I disagree with that, because there are some governors who are on record have been distributing fertilizers. It has not only the issues to do with the finances. We have, for example, in Murang'a County, even as we speak, the governor is distributing fertilizer, subsidized fertilizer. So I think it's an initiative of each and every county governor to take responsibility and say, yes, we failed in this and we need to come up with a solution.
I think I don't want to, Jonathan. Okay, I don't want to place blame on any governor or anybody, because it's a national crisis. But I want to say that the real problem is not the money the county governments received; it's the priorities. I've just read in the newspapers there, I don't know what page of the Nation, that the governor of Laikipia spent 150 million shillings only to improve agriculture. To me, that's meager, and it's actually in the papers today. So what does it mean? Agriculture was not given priority. And what I'm saying here is that this is a political issue. As much as members of parliament, senators, and the MCs are fighting for their political lives, the governors are also doing the same. So what they are doing something which can make them popular. I'm more conversant with the county of Kirinyaga, because that's where I come from. But I've not seen any initiative to improve agriculture from the county government of Kirinyaga. And in fact, there's one time, I want to say this on record, that when somebody came to audit the performance of our county government, one of the most senior county officials was very proud to say that they have built so many toilets. And I'm saying this on record. There have been so many toilets. That's a priority. The other thing is this issue. We are taking a
healthy nation is a productive nation.
I'm just
we know the effects of not having toilets.
I'm not opening that for debate. I'm just saying but I'm saying that this issue, from a scientific point of view, we should take it seriously. What is happening, like me when I was going to school, I was educated from money from maize proceeds. Today, the same piece of land which used to produce 10 bags can produce on 1 bag, because the soils have been exhausted. So we are talking about supplying fertilizers to Mwananchi, and because of overuse of fertilizers, the soils have become more acidic, they have mutated, and they are not as productive.
Counterproductive.
It's counterproductive. So what you should do as a nation is to see how well can you actually recover that productivity. If you recover that productivity, it's good for the nation. But if you continue politicizing this thing,
we'll get diseases like the one.
Those diseases, we get unproductivity, we also get hunger throughout. The other issue is a question of urbanization. We are getting funny way of housing this country now. You see, somebody is having 1 acre of land, and you are spending half of it on your housing. We need to think our housing policy so they can set free a lot of land for agricultural production. Yes.
Well, I think even though sometimes people want to look at it as politicization, sometimes it's very difficult to draw where to draw the line between politicization and governance.
Yes.
Like I tell you, sitting from the Committee of Agriculture, all these things that we are saying here, we have discussed them all these years that I've been sitting in the Committee of Agriculture since I was elected, and we have advised the government. We have experts there. In fact, for me, it has actually been a learning curve, because I never grew up in an agricultural setup, but it has been a learning curve. And I want to say that if you look at Galana, for instance, and part of the government initiative to make the country food secure was Galana, and the whole of Galana was stolen, really. It has went up because we actually, as a committee, we discovered that there was so much corruption and that it was not done the way we, as a committee, we had been told. We raised a red flag with the government. Nothing has been done about it. If you look at the production in Galana, it is actually laughable if you look at the amount of billions that have been put into it.
There's this argument time and again that Galana Kulalu is a long-term project. The initial setting up was of course bound to cost more, but the production, the yield would grow as time
What I can tell you from the Committee of Agriculture, that is the PR one that we want to tell the media to cover up for a rot in Galana. I sit in that committee, and the committee was very clear about the rot that was in Galana, and then politicization came in when now as a committee, you know, because originally when the committee even visited, everybody was agreed that really that was a white elephant thing. But then after that, which is actually another challenge in terms of tyranny of numbers, a very big difference that I see between this parliament and the last. The last parliament was a bit more objective, that people would come in and say this is wrong, this project, the governance issues are very serious, there's been a lot of corruption. But in this one we had to, you know, soothe it and cover it so that the government doesn't look bad. While Kenyans are starving. So the government, the national government must also be clear. If there is something that is devolved, do not hang on to it, and then when it's failing you blame county governments. If agriculture is devolved and you want to give the full authority and mandate to counties, then let them have that money. Don't hold on to some of it, and then when it is failure you want to devolve failure. Just take responsibility for holding on to responsibilities that shouldn't be yours.
Fair enough.
Let the county governments have the money.
Final word on this before we take a commercial break.
Yeah, the key here is with the devolution. The policy I'm hearing my colleagues talking about is good, and that should remain at the national level. So the Ministry of Agriculture should be looking at productivity. How many bags of maize do you need to get from an acre of land? Should be looking at what to do with these diseases.
Policy man.
Yes, should be looking at which counties need to produce what to be able to feed the nation. Yeah, and then you leave the governors to be able to buy your fertilizer, not distribute, because you know this fertilizer was all brought by centrally, then given to governors to distribute, and you saw in some areas the fertilizer was even killing the plants. Yeah, that was reported some time ago. So you let the governor know that in my county, this is the soil, this is the right fertilizer for the crop that we are growing in this county.
Like Njogu Barua.
Exactly. So that you can localize people's situations, and the government up here, the Ministry of Agriculture and the CARI, the Agricultural Research Institution, they just drive policy to ensure that we are food secure.
A wake-up call as we head towards electing another crop of leaders that no Kenyan would wish to undergo a situation akin to what we are going through now because of the issue of the maize flour crisis. We'll be taking a short commercial break. Mheshimiwa Jonathan Umweke, Deputy Governor Nairobi, Gathoni wa Mushomba, Jubilee nominee for position of woman rep in Kiambu County, Mheshimiwa Milly Mabwana, Member of Parliament for Mbita, also known as Suba North, and of course Mheshimiwa Njogu Barua, Member of Parliament for Gishugu. Right back after a short commercial break.